tonight, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to give you a great show because, as always, sometimes I'm your host, James Hyden, back with my guys like I never left. We got some familiar faces, but we got a new face who you might recognize if you've been a long-standing fan of the show. Mr. Sean Bell, how are you doing today, my man?
What's up, fellas? Can't complain. How y'all feeling?
Good.
Good, man. We good.
It's good to have you on, man. But the familiar faces from recently you might recognize: Doc Locke, Josh Safran. How you feeling, my guy?
Banners, I'm feeling good. The weather's getting nicer. It's March. We had Selection Sunday yesterday. I'm still only on bracket 1, but I'm ready to do it all week. I can't complain.
All right. I filled out a bracket yesterday with my buddies, and it was all gut feeling. I had a notification come across my phone this morning that says Nightmare Bracket, and I'm going, you know what? They probably picked our bracket because we have the Drexel Dragons beating Gonzaga in the finals with a final score of 132 to 116. And if that's not a winner, I don't know what is. So Warren Buffett, run me my check. But YG, young gentleman himself, James Jackson, how you feel, my guy?
I'm good. I want to take this time to again reaffirm my hate for I-76 going into Philly. Not sure what made someone build a highway into a major city with 2 lanes in the middle of a river and a mountain, but whoever did, this is once again, I hate you. I hate 76. That's all I have for today.
We always have time for 76 slander here. We always got time for that. I'll always listen. With that being said, we're going to move right into our first half, our main event. And we're going to start out with the guys who play in the Wells Fargo Center, the 76ers. It has been it's been weird because the results are great, but the news surrounding the team, not so much. And if you watch the game this weekend, there was a very, very, very scary incident with our guy Joel Embiid. He's got a couple weeks with a deep bone bruise. We are so lucky as a city to hear that it was not much more than a bone bruise, but that's not doesn't really give us hope. So the good thing is Ben Simmons stepped up in his absence, so did Tobias Harris, and that leads us to our first question. Josh, I'm going to come to you, my man. How far are the Sixers going to slide in Embiid's absence, if at all? I'm not going to put that on you. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Will the Sixers slide in Embiid's absence?
Well, of course they're going to slide in Joel Embiid's absence. And last night was pretty promising. I can't, I'm not going to just make nothing out of last night, especially because Pop and the Spurs have always had the Sixers number. But I see the Sixers sliding down to around the 3 spot in the East. I don't think they're going to be able to hold on to the 1. They're definitely not going to be able to hold on to the 1. The 2, it might be close, but if you look at the stretch of games that the Sixers are about to play without Joel Embiid, it is daunting. In a word, it is just simply daunting. And then you add in, can we trust his medical staff? And we're getting, completely speculatory here. But when I see 2 to 3 weeks in my mind, I'm like, all right, so 5 weeks, and maybe he'll be back for that last stretch of games, hopefully. I'm not very positive about that 2 to 3. Like, I'm positive it's a bone bruise, but I'm pretty sure I remember hearing about a bone bruise 3 years ago or 2 years ago when it ended up being a meniscus. So I'm very nervous about those 2 to 3 weeks, but if I'm going with the 2 to 3 weeks, like they're saying, I think when Embiid comes back, the Sixers will be in 3rd. Not too bad. They'll be within arm's length of that 1 seed still, but I think they're going to be sliding down to 3rd by the time he's back.
Oof. JJ, he said Josh has the Sixers sliding all the way to 3. What do you see in this with the outlook from the Sixers without Joel Embiid?
I mean, I co-sign a lot of what Josh just said just now. And the first thing I did was look up the stretch of games that the Sixers have coming up in this 2-week stretch. And you're talking about teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, the LA Lakers, the Nets, the Celtics, teams that are at full strength right now, everyone except the Lakers, looking to make their playoff push. And you're going up against these teams, some of them directly you're opposing in the Eastern Conference. And I look at these matchups. Now you're dealing with a whole new Nets team. The last time you played the Nets was without their 2 best players, and now they've added Blake Griffin. And now you get to go and test the waters against the Nets without your best player. That doesn't spell success for the Sixers. And then with the Bucks and the Celtics and Heat, these are all teams that you're trying to keep at bay. You're trying to keep from catching you in the standings, and then you have to play them too. And a lot of these matchups, these teams have very good big men, the Bucks, the Lakers, the Nets, and now your best player, who is the MVP frontrunner, the best player in the league right now, is your center, and you don't have him. So this spells a lot of trouble for the Sixers. Josh, I don't think you're wrong at all for thinking that they're going to slide to third. I don't think they go as far as getting down to the 4th and 5th seed with the Heat and the Celtics that are right there. But to think that the Nets, who are a half game back of them, can't catch them, and the Celtics, the Bucks, who are only a game and a half back of them, can't catch them in this 2-week stretch without Embiid. Like you'd be fooling yourself to think the Sixers can't slide that far. So I think it's reasonable that they slide down to third.
Oh, man, come on. Sean, tell them why they're wrong, man. Tell them why Tony Bradley's about to whoop some ass. Tell them why we're not going anywhere, all right?
Listen here, fam. I would have had them sliding even if they had a healthy Joel Embiid. I'm going to keep it 100% honest with you. The Brooklyn Nets are the Brooklyn Nets, okay? I heard a lot of idiots saying, we don't want James Harden. No, he's going to be a ball hog. He's going to shoot too much. He's going to mess up the chemistry. Now look what he's doing. He's the perfect fit, put himself in the MVP conversation, and they don't even have Kevin Durant yet. And KD is the one guy he's going to have no problems being nice with the guys and fitting in comfortably because they both like him and he doesn't have any chemistry issues. So the Brooklyn Nets, who are the hottest team in the league for the last month, really since they got James Harden, is going to, only a half game back, surpass everyone and widening the margin, okay? So I definitely got the Brooklyn Nets doing it regardless of Joel Embiid. I do think Milwaukee will pass them also. I agree with them because they're just starting to play well. Giannis wasn't playing very well for Giannis standards in the beginning of the year. Now he's playing like the MVP version of himself, okay? And Drew Holiday was missing some games. Now he's getting comfortable with the guys and Chris Middleton in the backcourt to finish out games. So, yes, I think they're going to slide to 3, not to 4, because that's a far drop-off in the top 3 to the 4 and 5th spot, Miami, Boston, etc. But, yeah, everything that happens now in the last 2 games of them winning big, it's cute. It's nice. You know what I mean? Like, but it doesn't matter to me, right? Like, once James Harden went up to Brooklyn, it doesn't matter. You need to get somebody so you can compete with them. Because as constructed, you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm. So, OG, you bring up a good point, Sean. Like, teams that are getting hot or were hot right before the All-Star break, that almost changes my opinion on one of these teams that we said the Sixers won't slide down for. Miami's in the 4th spot. Miami's climbed their way up from the basement of the Eastern Conference. And I know the Sixers in this 2-week stretch aren't going to see the Heat, so they're not going to have to go up against the likes of Bam Adebayo. But the Heat, right before the All-Star break, they wanted to give Jimmy Butler an All-Star nod.
Like, I know the Spurs don't play any defense, but they just beat the Spurs.
That's how hot the Heat were.
Oh, but y'all got to remember, Jimmy Butler missed a lot of time in the front of the season.
That's what I'm saying.
Their record is far above 5. They're below 500 team without him. When he's in, he plays at MVP level. Again, I don't think he can mess with the Sixers because their young boys haven't stepped up. Tyler Hero and all those guys you thought was going to take the next step didn't. But Jimmy Butler's still going to give you problems. They're going to get the 4th spot to give somebody a problem in the second round.
Right. We're not talking about are the Heat going to fly up and catch the Sixers. We're talking about are the Sixers going to drop to where the Heat could be. And if it happens to be, Sixers or Heat right there, the Heat are playing hot going into the All-Star break. If the Sixers start to slide and the Heat keep their momentum, we get to the Sixers fall all the way to there.
Oh, man, listen, I know the Spurs don't play any defense, but the Sixers just put up 134 without their MVP big man, all right? You see the breaks, let's pump them, all right? So we're going to stick with the big man being out. And I mentioned him a little bit early, and I think you all know my bet is Tony Bradley here. But who has to step up with Embiid being out? Hint, Tony Bradley. JJ, who has to step up with Embiid being out, man?
The low-hanging fruit to say right here would be Ben Simmons. But I think Ben Simmons has put himself and played at least the last month of the season, last month and a half, at a category where we don't we shouldn't press him to up his game and to up his level as much as we did in the beginning of the season when he was averaging 12 to 13 points a game. He's put in, a resume or a body of work in this last month that has suggested that Ben Simmons has taken his game to another level, has upped his game. The person who needs to step up most and continuing playing at an all-star level is Tobias Harris. And to kind of reiterate what Sean said earlier, it may have been regardless of whether Joel Embiid was there or not, that Tobias Harris needed to continue to play at an all-star level. But if you're talking about who needs to step up, Tobias Harris needs to go from third option to now second and be that go-to at the end of the games to give you a bucket now that Joel Embiid is not there. So Tobias Harris really has to step it up on the offensive end through all 4 quarters, but most importantly, the fourth quarter. The go-to guy, the biggest bucket getter on the team, is not there anymore. And your second best player, who is Ben Simmons, isn't a bucket getter, isn't going to be a bucket guy. So if it comes down in these last 2 weeks of the season, when you're playing a Celtics team, when you're playing a Lakers team, and you need a bucket, Tobias Harris has to be that guy you can consistently go to on a game-to-game basis. So he's got to be the most important player in this 2 week stretch for the Sixers. I believe if they're going to stay afloat, it's got to be Tobias.
All right, Josh, we got a Tony Bradley jokingly, and we got a Tobias Harris. So what's who needs to step up the most?
JJ, I really like your Toby pick for stepping up, but for me, like that's not the number one where it's like who needs to step up the most. If Toby plays the way he's playing now, I'll sign up for that all day. Who I want to see step up is Shake Milton. And why I want to see Shake Milton step up is because I think the Sixers should experiment a little bit with some lineups. And I know it hasn't worked out in the brief time that they've tried it out. Let's see Ben Simmons play a little 4, maybe even give him some run again at the 5 with a bigger sample size now that Embiid's out. Because Banners, I do not want to see Tony Bradley in this rotation.
You're wrong.
I do not.
It's all right to be wrong. You can be wrong.
Tony Bradley can be the victory cigar. You win the game. Give Tony Bradley some run. But I do not want to see Tony Bradley in these rotations. I would like to see a little bit of Simmons playing some of the 4, some of the 5. He can bring the ball up still. But I want to see Shake Milton take an NBA point guard role. And what I mean by that is, yes, he's shown flashes. This year he's shown more consistent. But I want to see Shake Milton just prove to everyone that he has the potential to maybe even be an all-star point guard one day. I'm not saying he's an all-star point guard this year or the next year, but I need to see like a leap from Shake Milton. I think I love Shake Milton's game right now, but if there's one guy who I want to see step up with Embiid out, it's Shake.
All right. So we got Shake, we got Tony Bradley, the centerpiece. We got Tobias Harris, Mr. Sean Bell. Who needs to step up in the absence of our MVP big man?
Well, it's Tobias and Shake are two guys that I agree with. But if I'm a pick, and this is just like the first question where I said whether Joel Embiid or not is in, this is what I need to see. I really look at Seth Curry and Danny Green. I know you said one, but I really look at those two individuals to see whether or not this team could play well and go further, right? Because Tobias has played at a certain level all year, balling. Joel has played MVP level. Ben Simmons basically been the same player since he's gotten the league. You know what I mean? I'm going to get you 15, 8, and 8. But Seth and Danny could both hit a total of 4 3-point shots. If they between those two guys can stretch the court for everybody else and maybe get you 18, 19, 20 points, then the team is going to be really efficient and really good. If those guys nosedive and don't play well, if you look at some of their losses and the stretches that they have lost some games, it's when Seth Curry, especially after COVID, didn't play well at all. Danny Green has played like a bum for most of the season, right? So in the tough stretches, if those two guys are, hey, Ben can't hit threes, he has to kick it out. Tobias is getting more attention. Joel's going to get double. Danny and Seth hit threes or pump fake dribble, knock down the mid-range. If those two are on and you have to be honest with those guys, it makes it way easier for Tobias and Joel to go to work. So those two guys have to hit shots and play well.
I love it. Yeah, Seth Curry got us probably the quietest 21 points the whole season yesterday against the Spurs. Of course, I was joking with my Tony Bradley answer. My real answer would be Matisse Thybulle. With him kind of gaining the second half form that he had last year, I think he has officially made Tyrese Maxey expendable in the search for a secondary ball handler to kind of push Shake Milton to that shooting guard role on the bench unit. I think that's Matisse is playing lights out right now, whether it be shooting or defense. So if he can continue being that, I think he's one of the most underappreciated role players in the entire league. Josh, you looked like you had something to say right there.
No, I'm putting a pin in it for the next question. Baby.
All right, I love it. So we're gonna move on. We're sticking with our Sixers, and I know why you put a pin in that one. And I'm gonna ask you guys, Sean. I'm gonna come to you with this one first, man. Which non-Sixers star? So obviously we're taking the big names out of this. Is on your untouchable list? As this trade deadline just is coming up on us by the day. So who's untouchable?
None of them.
Thank you. Thank you.
What are we saying here? None of them. Like,
not a person.
Is it the reason why people didn't want James Harden because they wanted Maxey? And how stupid does that look now? None of those individuals are untouchable. You all can go. I'll drive you to the airport. All right. So, and again, that depends on who you get, right? Like if certain guys, like I want to give up my entire bench for Kyle Lowry. Like I want him, he'd be a good fit, but you know, you can keep Matisse or a guy here and there or Maxey or one of those individuals that you name. But if you're saying, if I tell you, hey, Bradley Beal, he's on the table, you protecting one of those guys you just named?
All of them, not all of them. Push them to the center of the table.
No, you not.
Bradley Beal, that's a different story.
But that's what we talk about. That's why no one's untouchable. That's why like it depends on who you talk about. Like untouchable means just that untouchable. It means I'm not trading him for LeBron. I'm not that's the situation. That's what untouchable is. So none of those guys are untouchable. And to be quite frank, I'll trade any of them for Kyle Lowry also. I just won't trade all of them for Kyle Lowry. That's
any of them can get put in a package. Any of them can get put in a package because it's what are you saving your future for? Are you trying to make a title run right now? So what are you saving years of development of Tyrese Maxey for? Years of development for Matisse Thybulle for? What Shake Milton could become? What are you saving that for? Are we trying to make a championship run right now? And if there's someone out there that can help us make that championship run right now, why am I still looking at Shake Milton's potential and Tyrese Maxey's potential? Like that's my championship window is right now, so let me worry about right now. Who can I get that helps my team go and get it this season? That's why.
It's not like you have a 19-year-old Kobe.
That's what I'm saying. All my star players are veterans. All my young players are all my star players are none of my young players.
At best, these guys turn into starters. At best, but a role-playing starter.
Exactly. Josh, what say you, Josh?
All right. Well, Sean brought up a really good point about the word untouchable, and he threw the name. I thought about Brad Beal. I look at all these guys on the bottom of the screen, and then I think about Brad Beal, and it doesn't make it very hard. But the Brad Beal, it's a pipe dream. It's become a pipe dream, unfortunately, now, I feel like. And I'm just thinking in the context of the names I hear thrown around, DeLon Wright, George Hill, that thing, Kyle Lowry and such. For me, Matisse Thybulle, that was the point I was going to make, Banners. Matisse Thybulle, to me, is untouchable. And please understand, this is no knee-jerk from the whopping 10 points he scored last night, which everyone's considering an offensive explosion for Matisse. First of all, I do believe the offensive game will come. And second of all, I don't care that much if it does, because this guy, I really believe, could be an all-NBA defender if he got starting minutes. Now, he probably won't get starting minutes for the next few years just because, as I said, his offensive game is lagging behind. But we saw this guy literally lock up James Harden when those teams played each other. To have that guy come off your bench, and yeah, you get into the Tony Allen, Robertson range where it's like, well, can this guy really do anything on offense? I think Matisse is a step up from those guys offensively and getting close to where those guys were defensively. I really do, JJ. I love Matisse. I couldn't be more all in on him.
They might be a margin better, but I mean, just step
Gary
up.
Payton,
not
who?
that much more than what Andre Robertson would bring on the offense.
No, Gary Payton, who is all I'm going to say.
Hey, Andre Robertson could not shoot at all, at all.
Matisse Thybulle has to try to be Danny Green in his prime.
Agreed.
Oh, I'd love that.
Agreed.
That's who he can be on a championship team, but you can get those. It ain't like you can't. So,
well, who would be the better defender between Thybulle and Danny Green in his prime?
It's obviously Thybulle.
Thybulle with the length, right? Would be Thybulle with the length.
Well, that's what matters to me.
Yeah.
Can we really find a guy who's won 3 chips, 2 out of the last 3, and been like an integral part? Like, do those really just like come off of the trees?
Like who? Who's
Danny Green?
Danny Green. Like, can we have we just does Danny Green just fall off of trees?
Yes, I mean you
Really?
saw what he was with the Lakers. Danny Green has not been that for the last 3 years. He won the chips, but
the circumstance, maybe not. Might not be that many players.
Wait, JJ, don't you switch up your tone now? We got Sean Bell on now. Okay, don't do this. I remember a couple weeks ago you were talking, Danny Green, man. Danny Green's this integral part of these teams.
I mean, look, the presence of Danny Green was integral, but I can understand that Danny Green wasn't lighting the gym on fire when he was playing with the Lakers, but.
I'm sorry. Sure. Fred VanVleet was way more important than Danny Green. You're right. You got me.
You know what I mean? That's true.
So we're gonna move across the parking lot to the bigger stadium. that may or may not be able to hold 70,000 people for the upcoming football season. We're going to talk about the Eagles right now. So the legal tampering period is upon us with the official start of free agency coming in the next couple of days. There's already been a heaping helping of moves with the Patriots shelling out pretty much all of Robert Kraft's bank account. We had a couple new signings. Joe Thuney goes to Kansas City for a 5-year, $80 million deal. And JJ's own Rob Gronkowski stays in the state of Florida to play with Tom Brady. We're going to talk about the Birds, though. Josh, man, who are the Eagles targeting? Because there's already been a bunch of names come off the board. So who are the Eagles targeting here?
They all better hurry up.
For real. Oh, for real. I mean, I made this graphic a little before the show, and I threw Gronk on here, and right when the show starts, Gronk right back to the Bucs. So there's one gone. But for the Eagles, I would like to take two of these guys here. First and foremost, Kenny Golladay. That one, he definitely might be a little more than the other guys. But for everything we heard, like, I was just so sick of hearing people calling into the radio talk about giving Carson Wentz all these excuses and saying he doesn't have enough receivers around him. So let's just make sure we don't do this with Jalen Hurts. I'm so sick and tired of blaming the receivers for the quarterback. Then second of all, Jalen Mills is gone. Honestly, good riddance to him. And I want to bring John Johnson in. I'm a little worried about that money, how much money that's going to cost, if that's really going to handcuff you.
I hate to break it to you, but John Johnson's already in Cleveland, my guy.
When did this happen?
Couple hours ago.
It's our fault. Everybody else knows to pick up the phone. Y'all got to pick up the phone. It's our call fault.
Well, on that note, Kenny Golladay, come back to me if I can find someone else in the secondary. But you get what I'm going for. The Eagles really need to beef up their secondary. I said it last week. I'm much more on the retooling train than I am the rebuilding train. I think there's some firepower in this team. Maybe not setting my sights for the playoffs, but a 2-year, a 3-year window here of playoffs and competing. You get a young guy in the secondary. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
JJ, who are the Birds targeting, man?
Josh, actually, Kenny Golladay wasn't at the forefront of my mind. That's a good one because I think it's finally the wide receiver one y'all been claiming you've had for the past couple of years since Alshon's decline. And you haven't really had it. I mean, hey, in your offense, he's a wide receiver one.
Not after this draft, JJ. I don't know.
He comes in and for that reason to help clear up the draft, I think you go and get Kyle Rudolph, who's sitting on the table after being released by the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's a very good tight end, someone that can be a good security blanket for Jalen Hurts, and I think it takes a little bit of worry off of, or a little bit of complication off that number 6 draft pick when you have a guy like Kyle Pitts there. And it's like, should we take him if he's on the board, or should we bring him in our locker room if he's there? You have Kyle Rudolph, and that kind of puts your tunnel vision into Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith. So I think Kyle Rudolph would be a very good addition to the Eagles' offense, and back to that 2 tight end set that works well.
Yeah, wait, but we got a new coach here. You want to go back to this 12 personnel song and dance, and do you have this Goddard versus Kyle Rudolph thing, like the Goddard Ertz thing?
I mean, if you've been watching the NFL, man, there's room for 2 tight end sets. There's absolutely room for it, and you just send 5 out wide. 2 of them could be a tight end. You let Dallas Goedert kind of line out wide as what Zach Ertz used to do, and put Kyle Rudolph in tight. He could still block, and he could still leak out as well. So
you're okay with Kyle Rudolph being your tight end when Dallas Goedert gets hurt?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
You're not.
I wasn't. I had to deal with it. It's no.
Go ahead. I think it'd be great. I think the Eagles would relish in it, to be honest.
Interesting. Sean, man, who's there's been a bunch of names come off the board, but who should the Birds be looking at?
It's funny because y'all got to realize the Eagles are broke. It's like
that's true.
The broke dude can't holler at the pretty girl. She's sorry, like you're not dope enough. You don't have the money. You can't take her out and do nice things. You can't do any of that. So you got to sit back until it's the end of the night and you're picking somebody who doesn't have many choices. Okay. And that's the situation that the Eagles are in right now. You said my man Kenny, he's the belle of the ball right now, the wide receiver. You think he's going to the Eagles that are broke and not very good? He might skip over to the 49ers or the Chicago Bears and see what
broke
they're
with
doing.
No personality. Broke with no personality. That's
the Eagles have a whole lot of personality, but
Listen, you ain't got enough personality to overcome your brokenness, right? So to me, you're waiting to sign like a wide receiver. Like I'm looking at wideouts because it's a deep one, but you're waiting to sign a guy who nobody's giving him large amount of money. So he's saying to himself, all right, I got to go somewhere. I got to go somewhere 1 year. I don't think so. I don't think they want that headache. But they got to go 1 year. I think Antonio goes back to Tampa, but we get into that. Like,
take him.
Like I think a 1 year, $5 million. I got to prove myself. Then I get my big deal, right? Somebody who's coming off injured. I'm looking at a guy like Will Fuller, right? Like not a lot of people. Not a lot of people are going to be clamoring over him. He has an injury history, so he can't ask for the bag. He's going to be a third tier wide receiver that comes off the board when it comes to his free agency. So he might say, I'll go to Philadelphia, prove who I am. And he's a perfect little deep threat to help out that the Eagles don't have right now. So that's a guy that I think they should go after.
And Philly born and bred, bring him back home.
Yeah. So that's what I like.
Sean, you made a good point, man, because the Eagles, even after restructuring Darius Slay's contract, Javon Hargrave's contract, Brandon Graham's contract, re-signing, I think, was Lane Johnson restructured? I think I saw something about that. Like, even after doing all of these moves, they are still $17 million over the cap that is coming down about $12 million. Like, my answer is nobody. Nobody. Why? What are we signing him to? What are we realistically going to know about guys like Quez Watkins and John Hightower if you go out and add Kenny Golladay, who's going to waste away 3 years here while taking up $15 million a year? Like, what are we really doing? Like, why not build? You still got to pay a first round draft pick, which is like $5 to $7 million out of your cap. What are we really talking about? Why are we signing anybody? We don't know anything about anybody on this team.
Yeah, and I think Kyle Rudolph is a good choice because, again, not a lot of people are clamoring for him. He's a veteran who can lead Dallas Goedert a little bit. He's okay with coming off the bench and playing in spots. And, like, he's not explosive, but he got sure hands. He'll catch the rock and be a nice little safety net because he's that veteran. So, again, you're not getting Bell of the balls, but you get who you get. You said nobody, but they got to fill a roster.
Maybe. I don't know. And don't get me wrong, and there's no disrespect here for Kyle Rudolph. Obviously, my ties long time. I respect that man to his death. Sean, I don't know if you know, I'm the Togan Vikings fan. So it is what it is. So my respect goes out to Kyle, done everything he can. But we'll see. My answer is nobody. But we're going to move into halftime, and I'm going to take Max's spot. I'm going to do a little bit of minute with banners real quick. It's not going to be as eventful as shorthanded, but the Flyers, they come into tonight's game. Let's see, who are they playing tonight? But they were lucky. Before I get a chance to look up who they're playing tonight, they were lucky enough to get a chance to play the Buffalo Sabres again because It's looking rough. The blue line is just not good. They really don't have anybody outside of Ivan Provorov and Shane Gostisbehere right now. It's just there's been a bunch of names floated, whether it be Lindholm. I've seen Alex Goligoski's name out there, but it's really just there's nothing you can really do when the guys in front of your goalies are also in a slump. Brian Elliott, after playing well for a stretch, has also gotten down to Carter Hart's level currently. There's nothing really you can do to put a competitive team out there when both your blue liners and your netminders are just going through a rough slump. They're a deep team when it comes to the forward depth, but at the end of the day, you really can't do much when everybody behind your top two pairing is just it's a sieve right to the net. And while I say this, they are up 2-0 over the Rangers, so everything I know about hockey is a lie. Don't believe everything I said, because the Flyers are one of the streakiest teams in the NHL. But we're going to move right into the second half. We're going to talk about the best month of the year. It's back. We had it was a tough year last year for many reasons, but one of those reasons, we didn't get to have NCAA March Madness, and we're back with one of the weirdest brackets in my memory. This is a complete crapshoot this year, and like I said, I have the Drexel Dragons going all the way because when you have big names from other programs transfer in, you go to the chip. You do it. You take home the chip. But we're going to start with our first question. Oh boy, this is the best time of the year. We get back to talking about Cinderella stories. Josh, We're going to start with the first round upset candidates, man. Who's the favorite first round upset candidate for you?
Well, we'll start with the favorite upset, not the craziest upset. My favorite upset pick this bracket, it's the Hoyas. How can you not ride with Patrick Ewing and the Hoyas right now? I mean, I really believe when a coach like that and a former player sounds off in a press conference, especially in a year like we were talking about this before the show. It's been it's a COVID year, no doubt. And some of these teams, I really feel like they just don't have the amount of games to truly evaluate what the talent is on the roster. Georgetown might be one of those teams because they had a very mediocre, very poor regular season. They've rattled off 4 or 5 wins in the Big East. They win the tournament, and they're going against the Colorado team who, yes, there's a Pac-12 bias coming from me considering all these games start late, and I haven't watched too many Colorado games. But Colorado, they don't do anything for me. I'm going to ride with the hot 12 seed Georgetown, and we all know there's nothing better than the 12-5 game. There's always a 12 seed beating a 5 seed. So my favorite upset in the first round is the Hoyas.
JJ, who are we going with favorite upset of the first round?
There's a couple of them, honestly, that I'm looking at. And I always look at 5-12s too, because you're right. We literally always get at least one. The first one I'm looking at is Creighton and UC Santa Barbara. And it's not so much UC Santa Barbara as it is Creighton, a team who was stumbling through the Big East, to be honest. Much of this season was up and down, and then was on the wrong side of Georgetown's hot run to lose the Big East tournament. And it's, half of it is the form you go into for March Madness. And I think if Nova wasn't as hurt as they were, Creighton may not have even made it to the Big East championship game. So UC Santa Barbara might be there. But another one I'm looking at, and you have them right here on the graphic right here. You want to talk madness, March Madness, let's talk madness. A 15 beating a 2. I can see Iona doing something and beating Alabama. I know Alabama just won the SEC tournament. They're playing really well. And Javon Cornelly, shout out, he's from the area, Nova transfer. Just won SEC tournament MVP. I get all that. But who's Iona's coach? That man, Rick Pitino. Don't forget about Rick Pitino now. He's not done. He's not dead and gone. And that man, that's his 5th team he's taken to the NCAA tournament. This man knows how to win when it comes March time. And when you talk about Iona from the MAC, a mid-major conference, those teams are always very, very experienced, always laden with seniors and juniors who are on their last runs and just know how to scrap and put a win together. So if you're Alabama, who's riding a high and maybe looking towards already, round of 32 or even Sweet 16 territory, and you got to go against a scrappy Rick Pitino team in the first round, trouble. That's trouble. I wouldn't want to see Rick Pitino in the first round. No chance about that.
That's a good point. Sean, who's your favorite first round upset here?
Well, Jay took mine, man. Iona. Let me piggyback on that a little bit. The SEC is trash.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be real. The SEC only has 2 ranked teams. Okay, Alabama and Arkansas. Alabama is 1-3 against ranked teams, and their only win was against that Arkansas team. They haven't played anybody all year because even Arkansas, once again, hasn't played ranked teams.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so their top 10 ranking is fraudulent. You haven't played anybody in other conferences to see what you really are. Everyone else, Auburn and all these other teams that were expected to be good, fell off. You add that to, like you said, Iona, Rick Pitino, he does this.
Mm-hmm.
This is what he does. So if you're going to face a team that's fraudulent, that hasn't beat ranked teams, and then you have that guy who's able to mix and match and play different situations and different defenses, yes, Iona's going to beat them. I said I wasn't going to put any money on the NCAA tournament, but I'm going to put a little change on Iona.
Yeah. Somebody, you better Iona. And here's the thing. Rick Pitino's not a master of the mid-majors, right? This isn't his 5th lower school. He's taken to the dance, and it's always been a 15, a 16, a 14 seed, and they lose. No, Rick Pitino knows how to beat the top teams of the tournament. I know what it's going to take to beat an Alabama. I haven't gone with a bunch of mid-majors and just lost in the first round. I got a big, fat, shiny ring on my finger. I know how to go deep into a tournament. I know what it takes. And Rick Pitino's a mastermind, man. Don't let the Louisville scandal fool you. That's a great coach that Iona's got on the sideline. I don't bet – not too many times I bet against Rick Pitino, to be honest.
Oh, boy. I won't take everybody's wildest matchup because I have a feeling I know where at least one of you guys is going to go, and it has to pertain to a certain school in the close suburbs to the city we reside in. I won't take it. I won't take that from everybody's wildest matchup.
It's true though. It could happen. Winthrop could definitely.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm calling it. But my favorite first round upset is Syracuse over San Diego State. Sir. It's Jimmy Boeheim. How can I do it?
An 11 seed, they shouldn't be that high. They barely should be in the tournament.
JJ, you know what? I wanted to back up. I wanted to back up Banner's point. Last time we were doing this the same thing happened with Syracuse like 5 years ago, and I think they went to the Elite Eight or the Final Four.
I remember. But they won the ACC tournament that year, not just bounced out in the.
This is the Rakeem Christmas year dream run all over again. I can feel it. I can feel it.
I went to Syracuse for grad school. Jim Boeheim, legendary coach, Hall of Famer. He's a king of losing early. I'm sorry. I just, as a person who went there, I don't trust him at all. Okay, like, and his son Buddy is the guy who he's counting on to lead that team and hit threes. Is he a stud? No. Like he's nice, and it's because he's basically played in his mind in Boeheim's system his whole life that he's this good. Like, I don't like Syracuse at all.
Sean, there's a reason. There was a reason people were screaming for joy when they were in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament, because they're like, "Oh, look at Syracuse doing a little something." Like, an 11 seed, Georgetown won the Big East, and they're a 12 seed. Get out of here! I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Apparently, I'm wrong. So we're gonna move on to our wildest first round upset. JJ, I'm coming right back to you, man.
I mean, I feel like it's in the same vein. Like, I feel like it's the same thing, but for some reason, I left Winthrop beating Nova for this question because. Like, not too many people, and Sean, you kind of alluded to it before we went live. Not a lot of people paid close attention to college basketball this season, just because of the COVID. Teams were shutting down. The best player maybe in college basketball, Jalen Johnson, opted out, and when that starts happening, people kind of check out college basketball. So not many people may know that Nova is going into the tournament without two of the three best players, and that's Colin Gillespie and Justin Moore. And when you're going in limping to the NCAA tournament again, a mid-major team full of seniors, full of juniors, it's going to be wild to people because people know Villanova as a giant of college basketball right now. 2 out of the last 4 national championships have gone to Villanova. So when they see Winthrop pulling it out late against Nova, it's going to be wild to a lot of people. But it doesn't shock me because I know like the underlying and the context around it. But if you don't know, that's going to be wild too because they're like, Nova don't lose before the Sweet 16. We're not used to
Winthrop has some juice this year too. Like let's not
Nova's not. Look, Nova. I don't like the form Nova's going into the tournament with. Limping, literally.
Yeah, and if the Colin injury wasn't enough, that Justin Moore ankle injury is devastating. But Josh, man, who's your wildest first round upset?
Well, first, Banners, I don't know if you were talking about me when you were talking about the Winthrop Villanova upset, because I wanted to say I think Nova takes care of business in this one. Coming off 2 straight losses to end your season with a coach like Jay Wright, I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and I know the injuries are bad, but I do think Nova takes care of business against Winthrop. But my wildest upsets, I got 2 here. First, Colgate. Colgate over Arkansas is very tempting. I don't think I'm going to be taking it in my bracket. But Colgate, they're the second. They're like one of the highest scoring teams in the whole country. They have 1 loss in the entire year, and it was only by 2 points. They're one of those teams that I think it's just been so long they forget what losing's like. The other one I have, and this is the one that I am real excited about. This is the one I'm taking everywhere. It's Ohio over Virginia, and let me give you the reasons why. Virginia, first and foremost. They're showing up late to the tournament. They're showing up shorthanded. They're going through a little COVID thing themselves right now, so I don't know what their deal is. And honestly, this isn't even about Virginia and COVID. It's about Ohio and a guy named Jason Preston. Remember the name. That kid is an absolute stud. I found myself bored watching some action in the tournament and saw them absolutely take care of Buffalo on his back. I'm telling you right now, that's going to be the guy who steals everyone's hearts this year.
And a great story, right? Great story behind him as well.
Exactly. Sean, who you got for your wildest first round upset?
See, I should have paid closer attention to the rundown because obviously Iona
should be the answer, right?
would be the answer to this and what Louisville is going to do. And in the car was listening to a Rick Pitino interview on the radio up in New York, because that's where I was coming from. So that's the obvious one. I also will put money on Winthrop, maybe because, listen, I used to work in North Carolina as a sports reporter, and I covered Winthrop. I know their head coach personally, so that maybe some of that personal stuff is just rubbing off on the fact that I think that this team is going to win. So I've been looking at my phone and say, can I grab another real upset? Because those are the two that I already said, that y'all already said, that I'm trying to look forward to. But another game, I'm gonna go Rutgers. I'm gonna go Rutgers.
Dude, there's a good one. Over Clemson.
I'm gonna go Rutgers over Clemson. It's a 10-7. It's not that big of a deal, but 10-7s always go back and forth. You could always get a couple 10s that win over 7s. Rutgers, they've had some COVID situations that they didn't handle very well. You remember Penn State and Rutgers. I know Penn State's not in last year. Were teams that were going to make real Sweet 16, Elite 8 runs, right? But because everything was closed off, they basically had to shut down the best teams they ever had, both schools. So I think Rutgers rebounding a little bit. I think they're going to find a little bit of that magic that they had last year and bring it into this year. So I'll go Rutgers. Sir. Again, that's not wild, but I'll pick that one.
Well, see, I would disagree, and I was actually going to go with Rutgers and Clemson as well, and I would say it is as wild as anything, because when the national media hears Rutgers winning, like in anything, that's wild. Like you hear Rutgers and a success story, those two things don't line up in my head. I like the brand of basketball they play with guys like Ron Harper. I'm on those lines with the Rutgers over Clemson upset.
To me, like, conference matters, and the ACC was down this year, and the Big Ten was a gauntlet. Like, I don't care if you have 6 or 7 losses in the Big Ten. 6 or 7 losses in the Big Ten is way better than 5 or 6 losses in the ACC. So the reason that they're not far from each other is they're taking that into consideration. Another quick one before we go. I'm very hesitant. Right now I don't have it on my bracket, but it could change. Cleveland State against Houston. Nothing against Houston.
Get out of here.
But Cleveland State is one of the best shooting teams in the NCAA. Look it up. They had a great conference final. Like, if you could get hot in the tournament, like, how many teams you see get hot from 3 in the tournament and ride that for a 2-3 game stretch? These games are played back to back. You don't have time to rest and cool down. You get hot one game and you can ride that out until the Sweet 16 for 3 straight games.
And Rutgers did beat Illinois earlier in the season when they were the 3 seed. So the number 3 overall ranked team. So let's hold on to that. But our next question is going to be, we're going to jump all the way ahead. We're going to skip the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and we're going to jump all the way to the Final Four. Guys, I'm going to come. Sean, I'm coming to you first, man. What does your Final Four look like?
Nah, don't come for me first. Go to me second. I gotta take a second for this one.
I gotta do the same thing. All
right, I'll take this one first.
What's the Final Four looking like, man?
All right. Well, first things first, we're all putting Gonzaga in the Final Four. I feel like that's a foregone conclusion. After that, I'm not feeling as good about Baylor. They had a great season, but they had that COVID right in the middle, and they haven't really looked the same. Keep in mind, Banners, I'm like you. I did the gut reaction, like minimal thought, and I ended up with Texas Tech in my Final Four from that region.
That's not terrible.
Now, from the East region, let me see here. Who did I go with? Oh, that's right. I'm going with Texas. I love Texas. I love Shaka. I love the narrative of Andrew Jones this season. And like you said, JJ, tournament matters. All that matters is how you're going into it. They're coming in hot. And out of the Midwest, I have the team you just had getting upset by Cleveland State. Give me Houston. They have the best defense in the country. They're playing in the American, which is why nobody's going to put them into the Final Four. It doesn't matter. That scheme, that talent, and Kelvin Sampson's defense.
Can't tell me conference matters and then pick a team from the American.
Right. Dude, Houston's that team that always loses when they shouldn't.
Can't do that.
Hey, man, I got the American bias. I can't lie. I got to see them play a couple times, so I think they're pretty good.
Houston's a serial team that loses 2 rounds before they should every time. But Sean, what's your Final Four looking like, man?
Listen, man, this is my potential. This ain't really Cinderella because they're a number 2 seed, but my potential team that could ruin everything is Iowa. You got Luka Garza, the best big in the nation. When they're hitting threes, it's a wrap, right? Like they can beat anybody when they're hitting threes because they had that man down there. Now again, Michigan and some other guys have really good bigs And so they're able to say, calm down, kid, and get the wins. But if you don't have a really good big to defend him, then it's a wrap for everybody else. But so I think they get to the Elite Eight. But I'm going to go Gonzaga. I think a lot of this is going to be chalk just because we don't have a lot. Like, it's not that deep. We don't have a bunch of guys that are like on the 12th seed that have NBA talent. Like, we don't have a lot of those. So I'm going to go with Gonzaga. I'm going to go with Michigan. And I'm only going with Michigan because I feel like their bracket is pretty easy. Again, I don't feel like Alabama is anything, and I'm picking Iona. I'm going with Ohio State to beat Baylor. Listen, I think the Big Ten showed that they're the best all year, and I think they're going to dominate in this one. So I'm going with Ohio State, and then in the Final Four, they're likely going to play Illinois. It's going to be Big Ten heavy. Ohio State, Illinois, Michigan. Michigan, Gonzaga.
A whole lot of chalk in that bracket. So, JJ, who you got, man? Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you. Mine's a little different because I'm looking at, it's not in the bracket form on my phone. They're kind of listed. So I'm going to go out of the regions who I think the best team is in this region. Now, a lot of it is matchup. So when it's in an actual bracket format, these teams might not be coming out. But I'm looking right now in the West region. And Sean, I like what you said about Iowa because I think not only is Luka Garza the best big man in the league, I think he's National Player of the Year. Like, I think he's been that good all season. Yeah. And the only team that could take out Iowa, in my opinion, could stop Iowa from getting to a Final Four would be Gonzaga. Like, they're just unlucky to be in Gonzaga's region, or else I'd have Iowa going. But there's not too many times why I pick Gonzaga just because, in the Mountain West Conference, when it's not a good conference, when St. Mary's isn't doing their thing, when Nevada's not there, as they were a couple years ago, who are they really playing? But there's a different Gonzaga team this year. Like, they are the best team in the country. And just for that standpoint, I got to let them go to a Final Four. So in the East region, I'm also going to say Michigan. I really want to put Texas, but I think when it comes down to it, I think Michigan has been playing a better brand of basketball than Texas this year. Texas had a slide, and Michigan never had a slide. Michigan was up there the entire season until their conference tournament. And I just think Hunter Dickinson is a really underrated big man, and their guards play really well. I'm going to go Michigan. A sleeper in their region, in that East region, is UConn. I'm not picking UConn to go to a Final Four, but UConn's gonna make a run. They're a 7. They gotta get out that 7-10 matchup with Maryland, who's also a good team, coming out of the Big Ten. But I like UConn. But from the Final Four stance, I'm going Michigan. And then out of the Midwest region, there's a lot here that I could go with, but I'm going Oklahoma State over Illinois.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Oklahoma State might have the number 1 draft pick in Cade Cunningham, who you watch this kid play. Like he can put a team on his back for a tournament run. Like, this kid is the absolute real deal. And it's a team playing with house money because up until a week ago, they weren't going to the postseason. They had a self-imposed ban, appealed, and clawed and fought their way. And then the NCAA realized, like, oh, they got the number 1 pick. Why would we not want to put them on national television to get the revenue from it? So they let them go to the tournament. Now they feel like they got an extra life to their season that they didn't have coming into the season. They didn't think they were going to be here, much less a 4 seed in the tournament. I'm going Oklahoma State coming out that Midwest region. And then the South region, I got to go Ohio State as well. Went to the Big Ten championship game. Has been playing great all season. I'm kind of low on Baylor after not making the Big 12 final. I just don't see it. And then other than that, like this region isn't too hard. Like it's not for Ohio State to get past Baylor. That's to me, that's it for him to really have to get past. So I'm going Ohio State coming out the South.
All right. Our last question of bracketology is going to be, who is your Cinderella team? And this is just one of the reasons. I mean, I think back to that Lehigh win over Duke. Like, this is one of the best aspects of any tournament that we have around. So JJ, I'm going to come right back to you, man. The Cinderella team of this year's NCAA tournament that is going to be played in a bubble inside Lucas Oil Stadium.
Josh, you took it earlier when you talked about, biggest upset. But to quote the great Patrick Ewing, do these people not know who I am? Am I not Patrick Ewing? And he won himself a Big East championship. And the fact that they're a 12 seed is ridiculous, but the fact that they're a 12 seed can lend me to saying that they're going to be the Cinderella of this tournament. Now, I just said they're not going to make the Final Four, so I don't think they're going to go that far. But to be 12-12 to end the regular season and then win the Big East championship, when's the last time a team did something like that? What conference did they come out of?
Kemba.
Like when a Big East team get hot like that, claw themselves to a Big East championship in Madison Square Garden, that team rides that momentum. And UConn did it not only Kemba's year. Shabazz Napier did it 3 years later.
That's right.
Same instance where they weren't going to make the national champ or the national tournament without winning the Big East. They win the Big East, go on to win the national championship. So, Patrick Ewing, after this run, no one's ever going to have to, be reminded of who Patrick Ewing is again, coach or player.
The tournament's better when UConn's good. It feels like that. But Josh, if the slipper fits, who's your Cinderella team?
Well, I mean, I talked about it earlier. I'm going with my guy, Jason Preston, and those Ohio Bobcats, but I'll take you one step further because, I said that could be my biggest first-round upset. That's a Sweet 16 team in my book. I remember, if we remember that Florida Gulf Coast run, what made that run so fascinating was they didn't just win their first game. They made it to the Sweet 16, and then they got smacked around by Florida. I think that exact same thing I could see happen with Ohio. They win their first game. I could see Creighton losing to UC Santa Barbara very easily. Even if Creighton wins, Creighton doesn't do anything for me. I like Ohio to the Sweet 16, but then unfortunately they're on a crash course with Mark Few and the Zags. So, the slipper will fit for about 2 games, and then the magic will wear off. But I'm sticking with my boy Jason Preston.
Wow. All right, Sean, to wrap up our bracketology, man, who's your Cinderella squad?
Let me say this first. The reason why I'm not picking Georgetown is because the last time I went with the Big East theory about getting hot in the tournament, which I love that theory, is I did it with Seton Hall a couple years ago. I was actually covering the team in the tournament. I said
Miles Powell's junior year, his junior season.
Who?
Miles Powell's junior season.
Yes, but it was Miles Powell, but I forget the guard that they had. The guard that they had went 8 nuts. He went to the NBA afterwards, but never panned out.
Isaiah Whitehead, does that sound right?
Isaiah Whitehead. Yeah, Isaiah Whitehead goes nuts in the Big East tournament. They win a championship. I said Final Four, easy money. They lose in the first freaking game, I believe it was, because Isaiah Whitehead went something like 1 for 18. I said, are you kidding me, kid? Are you kidding me? You know how much money I put on y'all? So I'm out. I can no longer go with that theory, even though I know it's a very solid theory outside of Seton Hall, but it hurts my heart. I'm going to Iona, man.
Oh yeah.
Like you bounce, if you bounce out the 2 seed, that means your role is going to be pretty easy because you're not going to play another heavyweight until you're in the Sweet 16 Elite 8. Yeah. So I think Iona, their next path, they'll probably have to play UConn in a game after that. A UConn, decent team, but nothing big. Rick Pitino can outcoach whoever he's going to get for at least 2 games. He can outcoach you. And so I believe Iona gets to at least Sweet 16. I know Cinderellas are usually Final Four, Elite 8, but I don't. You saw my bracket. I don't think anybody of 10 or below, which I believe that's a Cinderella, is going to actually get into the Final Four. So that's why I'm going to pick Iona.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like it. Wow. Well, the tournament starts pretty soon. So, I mean, it's a Thursday. I think we have
Friday this year. It's weird. It's
Friday, I don't like that. But Friday we have tip-off. So join us. I mean, we'll be talking about it all next week and the following week and the following week after that until we have a winner of this year's NCAA tournament. That's going to be all. So we're going to get into tap outs before we jump out of here. I'll go first. So we got this weekly thing we're premiering tonight, which is going to be I'm producing. It's going to be a weekly Flyers roundtable with our guys. Mark Farzetta is going to be hosting it. We got Hunter Brody of 97.3 and Broad Sports Talk Media. And then our guys from Nasty Knuckles Podcast, Riley Cote and Derek Nasty Settlemeyer. So it's going to be across all social media platforms. It's going to be immediately following the Flyers game once every week, whichever game doesn't conflict with the Sixers schedule of that week. So check it out. It's going to be a good time, and hopefully we'll see you there. Anybody else got a tap out?
I mean,
I'll go next. Mine's quick and to the point. Y'all see this sign behind me. We getting the band back together. I got a quick shout out. My Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's right. Don't refer to us as anything less. Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Getting the squad back together. And I clown the Eagles a lot for clinging to 2017, for trying to bring back any remembrance of that Super Bowl run. And then I won a Super Bowl, and I got it. I don't want anything different. I don't want any different of a squad. I want the same Bulls who was there to come back next year. The same exact spots. We're going to line up and do the same exact thing. I'm okay with that. I love the fact that not only Tom is restructuring his contract to make it happen. Mike Evans said, take some out of my pocket if you got to pay the likes of Chris Godwin. And everyone is sewed up. Brady, Godwin, Levante David, Shaq Barrett, the only one, or Gronk, the only one we got left is Leonard Fournette. He might be the only one that goes, but between the big six, those are the six we needed to focus on. We got 5 out of the 6 guaranteed. And Antonio Brown kind of gets left right outside of that. But we got the band back together mostly. Shout out. I love it.
Fire them cannons, baby. Josh, tap us out, man.
Yeah, JJ, I almost forgot my tap out because I was like getting ready to do a rebuttal to what you were saying or something like that. I was going to say, hey, JJ, I remember saying the same thing in 2017 and getting a lot of that band back together. And I don't know.
We actually did it, and we gonna get 2 of them things out of it.
Yeah, whatever. I don't have a crazy tap out today. My tap out would be if you're ordering food delivery and like using DoorDash and Grubhub, you can never complain about money, okay? I just don't want to hear it. Like, there's people who are college students I know who DoorDash like way too often. It drives me absolutely crazy when you're DoorDash and then you're you need a little more time for utilities or something like that. Nah, come on, you can walk to food. There's plenty of it.
I respect that. Sean, man, you got the last tap out. Give us tap us out for this episode.
Let me just say this, and I'm gonna try to make it short, but it pisses me off. Quarterback development, whatever happened to it? Okay, back in the day, and I don't want to sound like an old head, but I'm gonna sound like an old head a little bit. Your quarterback didn't have to perform greatly in the first year for you to say he could be a franchise quarterback. You know what you did? You brought him in, you believed in his talent, and you said, I'm going to put things in around you, an offensive line, a running back, some wide receivers to make sure you develop slowly and you get there. Remember, Russell Wilson was a game manager when he was a rookie in his second year. Then he developed into a franchise future Hall of Famer. Same thing with Ben Roethlisberger. He was a game manager. So it befuddles me to see guys like Tua, when you want to get rid of him already. Only a year has passed. He still has that talent. Develop him. I say all that to say Jalen Hurts. You're not seeing what the Eagles are doing right now. They're not giving him the proper development he needs. Let's get him in there, get him a proper offensive line, running back, get away from controversy, and let this kid develop. That's what I want to see from the NFL again. Development. Aaron Rodgers sat 4 years. Remember that. Guys don't have to be Hall of Famers, Justin Herberts, in year one if you want to be great. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to see back in the NFL. Please develop Jalen Hurts. Develop him properly, please.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Let the symbols go.
Patty Mahomes had his first year too. I mean, no one talks about that.
Yeah.
That was weighing you down, wasn't it? That was I like that. That was well put.
It's right here, man. Right here. It pisses me off.
Oh man, that's gonna wrap us up for this episode. Sean Bell, man, can't thank you enough for coming on this week.
Thank y'all, man. Thank y'all.
We'll have you on again sometime soon, but that's gonna do us. That's gonna do it here for us at Trust the Process Live. As always, we are brought to you by My New Philly, where something is always new and everything is always Philly. Have a good week, Philadelphia. We will see you next week. But as always, you can catch us wherever you find your podcast, whether it be Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever, with special guest Sean Bell. We'll catch you next week, Philly.